Also, a new elimination. And Brew, this one breaks my heart. The Jacksonville Jaguars have been.
Wow. Tough one.
Another check mark for objectivity, Nick. Good job.
Again, they were facing elimination. They lost the game, and a special added trauma for the chairman emeritus of the committee that they were eliminated on a Trevor Lawrence red zone 2-minute drill interception. But such is life. 8 teams eliminated. Who's facing elimination this week? Well, 2 teams that I thought we all agreed should be facing elimination, but it turns out one of them is about to rip off 8 straight wins. Who knew? The Jets, if they lose to Arizona, they're out. The Dolphins, if they lose to the Rams, they're out. Next level. Who's in charge? With the Bears. Is Eberflus in charge? I don't know, man. You got all your players doing media being like, have they quit on the team? I don't know. He's like, I want to say no. You got guys walking off the field. It's not looking great. In Indy, who's in charge? The guy who drafted the rawest prospect in the last decade in the NFL, number 4, or the guy who benched him for 39-year-old Joe Flacco? And in Dallas, we kind of know Jerry's the one in charge, but is he going to exert that influence at all? Like maybe, I don't know, Micah, less lists on your podcast that exclude or insult Dak Prescott. Next, buried at 405. So all these teams, except for Tampa, play on the West Coast or Mountain Time Zone, and because of that, they very often are playing opposite the America's Game of the Week or the huge game on CBS at 425. So I don't know how much America has seen these teams, but Seattle has the league's leading passer in Geno Smith. Denver has a legitimately excellent defense, and Arizona, and Bo Nix playing pretty well lately actually, and Arizona getting better defensively, fun to watch offensively. Tampa, on the other hand, they haven't been buried at 405. They just have had an odd amount of nationally televised games against teams better than them. So my point is, I think all 4 of these teams are a little bit better than the general public believes because they either haven't watched them or have only watched them in tough spots. Sneaky impressive. I like both of these teams. And imagine, by the way, sidebar, how impressive your team must be if you easily dispatched of both of them earlier in the year, but that's neither here nor there. I really like what Atlanta's looked like since Kirk Cousins got at least semi-mobile, and I really like what the Chargers have looked like since Jim Harbaugh has allowed Justin Herbert to exhibit some of his Justin Herbertness throwing the ball down the field. This one's going to be controversial. Can win the Super Bowl. That's the next tier. Either of these teams can win the Super Bowl. A couple years ago, we saw these teams play each other in the Super Bowl. When healthy, they have 2 of the 5 best offenses in football. The Rams have a great coach to go along with it. The Bengals have maybe the best pair of receivers to go along with it. Now listen, either of these teams could miss the playoffs outright, but either of them, if they get in, can win the Super Bowl. Which is what's so odd, because they're right beneath in the tiers teams that can't win the Super Bowl. None of these teams are going to miss the playoffs, but none of them can win the Super Bowl. They're all going to be in the playoffs, have great seasons, and then lose before you get to the Super Bowl. I've ton of respect for what all 3 of these teams have done. The Steelers, quarterback change seems to be better because of it. Washington starting a rookie. And by the way, even though I didn't pick it, do I get if I'm wrong about Washington and they do make the Super Bowl, do I get any kind of reverse take credit? I predicted a rookie to go to the Super Bowl in the NFC.
No,
some people are 100%.
saying.
And the Vikings,
No
everybody
way.
thought,
No
I don't know,
way.
some people are saying, there's rumblings like Cooper Rush replacing Dak Prescott. There were rumblings. And the Vikings, they lost their quarterback in the preseason. The guy they drafted, Sam Darnold's making it happen, but they can't win the Super Bowl. Depends on the day. Both of these teams, kind of the 2 best teams in the NFC the last couple years, this season, if you snapshotted their worst game, or maybe even their worst 2 games, you'd be like, oh, they are nothing close to the team they had been the previous 2 years. Flip side, if you snapshotted their 2 best performances, you'd say they're the exact team they've been the last few years. Philly's in good playoff shape. San Francisco's in shakier playoff shape, but they have more reinforcements coming. Next, crown too early? Question mark? Maybe. 2 young quarterbacks, second year full-time as a starter. People on this show picked either or both of them to make the Super Bowl. Maybe a little premature. With that said, they have both dealt with injuries and they have both found their way to 6-3. I have been oddly impressed by them as a team, even if I've been a little maybe underwhelmed by some of the features that I thought were going to be the best for them. For the Texans, D'Amico's defense, and for the Packers, Jordan Love's ability to control the turnovers. Next, awesome with a fatal flaw. So we know what the Ravens' fatal flaw is. I'm not even going to talk about Lamar's playoff performances. It's just that their defense appears to, no matter how much time in the film room they spend watching old Ravens defenses that used to be good to get their daily boost of culture, their defense doesn't have it together, and you feel like that could end them. And we know what the Bills' fatal flaw is. They taunted the football gods this week with the never a doubt tweet, and then they had their shaky kicker hit a kick, and we know that's going to come back to bite them. But then when they are rolling, they are awesome. Fully bought in. I think Dan Campbell should be the runaway favorite right now for Coach of the Year. Everything about the culture he has brought to Detroit, his team, his quarterback, both sides of the ball have 100% fully bought in, and they right now look like clearly the best team in the NFC. And then atop the tiers, a team that is simultaneously not scary, might go undefeated. It's a very odd circumstance we find with the two-time defending Super Bowl champs. We all agree that if they played that fictional team from the program 30 years ago, that team would kick their ass in a knife fight. They'd bring sticks to it. But they also never lose football games. That, Brew, or...
Okay. Let's talk about this. There's some issues. At first, I was like, okay, you know what? Some of these are not too bad. And then as it continues to go forward, I'm like, okay. First off, in no world are the Dallas Cowboys better than the New York Jets. The Dallas Cowboys are an absolute mess right now. They don't even have their quarterback, and the Dolphins are better than the Cowboys. I mean, the Cowboys should be facing elimination. Like I don't understand. Like what are we talking about here? It makes no sense whatsoever. I do think the title buried at 4 or 5 makes sense for the Seahawks, the Broncos, and the Cardinals. I think those teams could be elevated as well, but I do get the sense that a lot of people don't really know who those teams are. I'll try to pause it on a little bit more flattering image of Nick right here. And so, because I think the Cardinals are sneaky good for sure. I think the Broncos, we're going to figure out who they are, especially now that they played the Ravens, and now let's see what they do against the Chiefs and stuff like that. They still have a bunch of these more barometer games to figure out who they are. Right? And in terms of the Chargers and the Falcons, I don't think there's anything sneaky about them. I think what Harbaugh has done with the Chargers is incredibly impressive. They've dealt with health issues as well, and they also just don't have this great stacked roster to work with. The Falcons, it's hard to put them in any type of box or frame of reference as to where they're at and what their potential is, because for me it's got to be, are they doing all the little things correctly, right? Are they getting in their own way? I think out of all of the top contenders of these teams that can truly do some damage in the playoffs, I would say that the Falcons probably have the least runway, because they don't have anything that's too overwhelmingly strong that would make you overcome it, right? The defense is really slacking for the Lions. You know that offense can still slug you, right? Jalen Hurts turns the ball over for the Philadelphia Eagles. You still got Saquon Barkley. You still got AJ, Devontae, right? Like, you can still get to it. So it's just like these other teams to me are a little bit more resilient. So it's like that's where I kind of struggle with the Falcons in terms of, you know, what is their ceiling? Where do they stand right now? But I think that they are a legitimately good team. I do agree with the whole can win the Super Bowl. I made a bunch of videos about this recently about the Rams. Like, the Rams, I think, are legitimate. I went on a whole rant about, you got Sean McVay, Matthew Stafford, Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, a legit run game. The offensive line when they're healthy, right? Like, that is for real. And the Bengals, like, I just, for whatever reason, it's cool to now hate on Joe Burrow and think that he was only good like 1 year, and all because he beat Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs and lost in the Super Bowl. That's why he's good. Like, no, he's legitimately good. He is legitimately that dude. So if you want to count him out, by all means, go ahead. Count me out, though. And then you have the Steelers. I mean, I think the Steelers are making huge moves, and the Washington Commanders. And the Vikings certainly shouldn't be down this far either. They really, really shouldn't. I think all three of those three teams are legit, and I'm excited to see the Steelers continue to progress. I'm excited to see if the Commanders are going to improve their defense. Like, that's where they're at right now. Like, those two teams specifically made very concrete moves that should improve improve one or both sides of the ball. And so it's like, again, it's a little bit harder to grade them, because I want to see what that looks like now, right? I want to see Steelers got another weapon offensively. The Commanders got another weapon defensively. So to me, that's going to be really interesting if they can bridge that gap. The Eagles and the 49ers are too. I mean, I don't understand how you're going to put the Eagles below the Texans, and the Texans lost to the Jets. Like, okay. And the Eagles, again, beat the Packers and have looked way more consistent than the Packers. I think the Packers are a great team, but you can't put them below. You can put them in the same tier, but putting them below makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. And right now, the Texans aren't healthy. So that's the hard part. The Texans are not healthy. If they get healthy, well, then they're a significantly better team. If they're not healthy, they don't have a chance. There's just no way for them to overcome that. And the Bills and the Ravens, right? I mean, like, how are you ever going to count Josh Allen? And Baltimore Ravens obviously coming off a huge win, but it's still hard to forget some of their really bad losses. And that's where they become very, very, confusing, quite frankly, because it's just like, which team are you going to get in that regard? And the Lions, to me, have been the most dominant team without a doubt. And you look at the Chiefs, right? I mean, the Chiefs struggled to beat the Falcons, struggled to beat the Chargers, and what was he? Justin Herbert wasn't even healthy, okay, right? He's coming off a bad ankle injury or plantar fasciitis, whatever it was, right? And then they struggled to beat the Bucs. They needed overtime to beat the Bucs. Like, because of those reasons, I just can't put the Chiefs by far better than everyone else. Like, it just does not make sense. So yeah, I mean, listen, it's always so hard to put all of this. And so the way how I have it right now is I'm gonna have the Lions number one more than anything, and then I have the Ravens, Chiefs, and Bills in their category, right? I don't have a fun little name for it. And then I'm gonna have the Packers, Eagles, 49ers, and Vikings, and I have it as the title or tagline, whatever it is, as prove that it's injuries, right? The reason why some of these teams haven't looked as consistent, prove to me that it's injuries, that when they're healthy, they are going to be significantly more dominant, right? So that category can definitely change, right? 49ers getting Christian McCaffrey back. Eagles have gotten they lost Dallas Goedert right now, but they've had some injuries on the O-line, A.J. Brown, whatnot. Obviously, Packers with with Jordan Love, and the Vikings having, Justin Jefferson was in now the lineup, their tight end, a few cast of characters, and now I think they lost one of their O-line for the year, but I think they then went and got like a replacement for him. So again, we got to kind of see how that all shapes up. And then I have the Steelers, Commanders, and the Texans, right? Constant but, right? Or consistent but. The Steelers, like, I think this slate more than anything, the Steelers and the Commanders especially have the ability that I think to, like, also get up there, to go even higher and join the party of the Packers, Eagles, 49ers, and Vikings. But it's just like, you need to see more, right? We need to see Russell Wilson play more. We need to see the Commanders, some of the moves that they made with Lattimore and stuff like that. Let's see what that looks like. If that shows to really increase and improve the defense, well, that's going to certainly bring the Commanders even higher. The Texans are such a tough one because they really are. They lost, right? Diggs is out. Nico Collins, when is he coming back? Like, their O-line is not good, so they're a tough one. They're on the brink of falling even lower. And again, unless they can get healthy, it's hard to see what they're going to be able to do. So Texans, I'm more conflicted than anything. And then I have the Rams, Bengals, Chargers, and Falcons, and I have it listed as ready to blast off, right? Chargers feel like that they're kind of rolling now and getting better. The Bengals seem to that they've kind of wrote this ship. The Rams are finally getting healthy. You could put the Rams in the proof to me that the injuries were the concern. But you know, again, it's hard to fully fit. And same thing kind of similarly with the Falcons. It seems like that they've figured out a few things or two. They're really getting more and more comfortable with Kirk Cousins, understanding how to maximize him and minimize any of his issues, maximize that run game. And then I have proof to me, the Broncos and the Cardinals. I think the Cardinals and Kyler Murray have been playing great. They really figured some stuff out, keeping Kyler under center and really establishing that run game and really being a significantly run-centered team, right? Like really being aggressive in that regard. And so it's kind of like proof to me that you can continue to do that. And same thing with the Denver Broncos. Their defense has been legit, and Bo Nix is getting better and better and better week to week to week. And it's like, prove to me that you're going to continue with this trajectory, that it's going to continue to go. I want to see what the Broncos do against the Chiefs. I don't need them to beat the Chiefs, but can they prove that they hang with the Chiefs, right? If they get blown out by the Ravens and then get blown out by the Chiefs, it's like, all right, you know, this is not the year. So let me see what you got. And again, the Bucks are decimated with injuries. The Seahawks, I just don't know if they're going to be able to be consistent enough. The Bears as well. I still believe that the Colts could maybe get something going as well. It was a little alarming to see that game versus the Minnesota Vikings. Joe Flacco wasn't super comfortable, but I wonder if that'll change over the next couple of weeks. And again, the Cowboys, Dak Prescott's not even the quarterback anymore. So like, I don't understand how they're not facing elimination. So I would put the Cowboys facing elimination, and I would put the Jets, the Dolphins, the Colts, and the Bears in the whole who's in charge section. And honestly, I'd put the Bucks in their own category of, you're probably a better team if you didn't get so badly injured, and that's just a bummer. You lost season to injury, right? Like the Buccaneers are better team than I even initially thought, honestly. So let's see what Greg and company have to say.
Team from the program 30 years ago, that team would.
These lines, especially that Steelers, Vikings, and I think Commanders, it's quite disrespectful given their record right now. Wow. Not saying I don't agree with you totally, but I could argue that. Your infatuation with the 49ers, I'm going to digress right there. But I do like the title that you gave the team that I'm going to talk about in the Houston Texans, crowned too early, because I did pick this team to win the Super Bowl. And I'm not jumping off of that. I'm not jumping off of that. I still believe that they have an opportunity. But boy, CJ Stroud was going to be my MVP. That's no longer even an option because of the way that he's played. And it's not just about CJ Stroud, but I do want to take a look into CJ Stroud as it pertains to who he is this year versus who he was last year, because he caught a lot of teams by surprise. He came on the scene and he was electric. He was exciting. He gave that city life. But this year, it has not been the same when you look at the numbers of C.J. Stroud. And again, I'm not going to just say it's all about C.J. Stroud, because he's had injuries up on his offensive line that play into the reasons why he's been bad. But those numbers, they're not great. They're not great when you have expectations to get to the Super Bowl, and that's what.
I mean, this is just not really right, because he has no weapons, no O-line. The drop-off is actually not that bad, considering the circumstances. And like I highlighted in many previous videos, his accuracy is still incredibly high, 75%. So again, not completion percentage, the number of throws that are on target. So he has less weapons, an awful O-line. His running back was in and out of the lineup, right? Bobby Slowick is clearly not gifted enough to be able to pull some strings with this injured lineup. Right, he's definitely better when he has the weapons versus not. He's a young OC, that's to be expected. And yet C.J. Stroud is still making something out of nothing. And those numbers, again, I'm not acting like those numbers are amazing, but they're certainly not awful. There are worse quarterbacks in better situations. So C.J. Stroud deserves a lot of praise, quite frankly.
what you were built to do this preseason with all the acquisitions. You got injuries galore right now at the receiver position and along your team. Like, I don't know. I would knock this team down a couple notches to where the Steelers, the Washington Commanders, and the Vikings are right now. I think they're a little too high.
So you're taking the team that you picked to go to the Super Bowl.
For right now, it's
moving them down to the can't win the Super Bowl.
I'm not because of the title.
You like the title of that tier.
Wilds is
not
so
because of the title of
Greg
the tier.
did. Greg, let me give. Hold on.
Bail on his
Because
pick.
I got to give Greg
I think
credit.
he's bailing, Nick.
Let's be honest, pick.
No, he's not.
Halfway through the
Greg
season,
has
it sounds like he's bailing.
Greg has gotten very, very good with something that, if I may say so myself, I think I'm the single best in the world at, which is having like a throwaway line in the preface of your statement that actually then makes sure you don't contradict anything. And so if someone tries to call you on it, you can be like, no, I said. Greg said, and it didn't really make sense. He was like, I don't love the name of that tier with the Steelers and Washington and whoever else. And then he launched into his thing because he knew he was going to drop Houston down there and he wants to say they can still win the Super Bowl. Greg, I doff my proverbial cap to you, sir. That was a great job.
Bailing on your pick. From where we sit, that's called bailing on your pick.
I'm not
I
bailing.
think he dropped him to like the 14th best team in the league.
Yeah, it means you're bailing on
Right
your
now, I am honest. I am real. Right now,
Greg?
they are not that great.
You can be honest about
Well,
every other
since I'm
team,
not
but if you got
there-
your teams, you got to defend your teams. Then it's not your team.
Listen,
They're still my team.
Greg, I think you're doing great. And I think since I'm not there, just kind of in absentia, you today, Mr. Consistency.
Thank you.
Studio.
Thank you, Nick.
I see no inconsistency in your
appreciate
take
that.
whatsoever. I love
Means
it.
a lot.
Yeah, no problem.
All
Go ahead,
right.
bro.
Well, look, the Washington, and what Nick does, I've noticed this over the last month or so. Nick often saves himself with the titles.
Yeah.
You know, because the real tiers are just the tiers.
Exactly.
How they're ranked. It's not the name. All right? What he does, though, is save himself because I look at that bottom line facing elimination and I say, okay, that's fair. I get that.
Yeah.
But, and the Cowboys shouldn't be facing elimination, but they should be on that bottom tier with the Jets and the Dolphins. The Cowboys are not better than the Jets and the Dolphins, especially with Greg's favorite quarterback, Cooper Rush, at the helm.
Not my favorite.
Okay? They're not. They basically have the same record. The Jets are 3-6, the Cowboys 3-5. The Jets are a week removed from beating the Houston Texans. Greg's Super Bowl pick, I think he might have just jumped off the bandwagon.
No.
But my point is, Nick, you do this a lot. Who's got the better quarterback? The Jets. Who's got the better receivers? Wait, Aaron Rodgers isn't better than Cooper Rush?
Oh, Cooper Rush.
Oh, compared to Cooper Rush, fine.
Okay,
Yeah. I
okay.
thought we were saying compared to Dak.
The
Go ahead,
better
sorry.
receivers, the Jets.
No, the Cowboys.
How about the
CeeDee Lamb's better than
Jonathan
anybody the Jets
Mingo's that
have?
good? Well, yeah, but you got Devontae Adams and Garrett Wilson on the Jets.
The Jets
that
have better running
combination
backs.
is better than CeeDee Lamb by himself. The Jets have better running backs. The Jets have a better defense. I know Micah's coming back, but Micah was there for the 44-19 loss to the Saints. Micah was there when they went down 28-6 to Baltimore. So I'm just saying, you saved yourself with the title because I don't believe the Cowboys should be facing elimination, but they should drop a tier because they're no better than the Jets and the Dolphins.
Wilds,
Yeah.
help me out here. Because my earpiece went out for a moment.
Yeah.
Did Bruce say at the end there that he doesn't believe the Cowboys are facing elimination, but he wants them on the facing elimination tier? Because that seems silly.
Greg, you can't change the rules.
He
as it
saves
goes.
himself with the titles. That's what he does.
You
But
act
I
like
think it's
Brew,
really the tiers.
titles. Can I tell you something? Without the titles, these are just a fancier, spit-shined power rankings. We would never.
USA Today.
Like the whole reason that the committee's tiers have taken hold of America the way they have is because of the titles. Every week, people are like, wow, how did you find a way to rank the teams horizontally by title and vertically by strength?
Hello.
So, yeah, I mean, thank you, KW.
Okay.
Go ahead, Walt.
I'm going to play by the rules, okay? I'm moving the Cardinals up to sneaky impressive, okay? Also, a little side note for you, Greg. I picked the Cardinals to go to the Super Bowl 2 years ago. I'm still riding with the Cardinals.
Oh,
I'm not bailing on them. I'm still riding with them. I'm like, with my Cardinals. Move my Cardinals up 1 to sneaky impressive for a few reasons. One, Kyler having his career year. You're like, are you sure the numbers aren't that great? Well, turns out they are for Kyler. He's running the ball now. He's fully healthy, feeling good. Touchdown interception ratio 11-3. Also, side note, I didn't sneak this one in here. Cardinals are in first place.
They are.
That's why I think they deserve more respect. Every other team that is in first place is up higher than the Cardinals. Poor Cardinals are down there like, well, they're not really in first place. Maybe the Rams are in first. They're not. Maybe the 49ers. They're not. The Cardinals are in first place. They deserve first place respect. Number 2, full offense. Pretty good. Just better than we thought. And we talk about great rushing teams. We're like, probably not the Cardinals. You probably run through a bunch of teams. Turns out the Cardinals are pretty good. And what about the defense? Real Achilles heel early on in the year. The last 3 games, all of a sudden, coming alive. Those wins against the Bears, hey, it counts. Dolphins and the Chargers. So I think Cardinals are just sneaky good, about to beat the Jets. So that's going to be another win. It'll be 4 wins in a row for Kyler. Still in first place.
Yep.
Moving Kyler up.
So what?
All right. So there you have it. Nick's tiers. What do you guys all think? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I'd absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much, and see you next time.